Hello, my dear ones. It is JBHarris once more, yet again, and still with the very first 10-minute take of 2020. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I am an independent blogger, teacher, facilitator, and in all matter of things writing and communications related. So, as far as a 10-minute take is concerned, it's going to be a topic that I expound upon for about 5 to 10 minutes. Simple as that. So one of the things which has come across my desk in the last few days, is this concept of the 5 mile sprint. So the 5 mile sprint, if you're not aware, is this concept that has come from the book by Shonda Rhimes called The Year of Yes. I cannot recommend that enough. It is an excellent read, it is an excellent book. And I admonish any of you whom indeed are writers or entrepreneurs to grab this book. It is life changing, I assure you. But the one thing I want to talk about is this concept that she discussed called the 5 mile sprint. Now, again, this is not my concept. This is something that Shonda came up with. And in her coming up with this, total intellectual property belongs to her. That's her baby, that's her thing. The one thing that I think is amazing as it relates to that concept is how keen it is. Now, what does that mean? For those of us who write, there's this vernacular that is tossed around often called the flow. Now, the flow is anything that relates to the stream that you encounter as a writer, as an artist, or anyone who participates in that particular media. The flow being this easy accessibility of what it is that you're trying to get to, where everything is easy. Creating is easy, brainstorming is easy, writing is easy. Everything comes at a clip and a pace that is awesome. And in the book, when she discusses the 5 mile sprint, I believe it's near the end of the book, where she talks about a relationship that she was in and its ultimate outcome. She talks about being able to, again, lay some track. Again, you have to read the book to kind of be familiar with that. So as far as lay some track is concerned, meaning let's just lay down the fundamentals of what I need to get to where I need to go next. So in the book, she discusses the 5 mile sprint as a way to pace herself toward the next place she has to be. And in that 5 mile sprint, you have to clear your head. You have to clear away all the clutter of the day, all the things that are anxiety inducing, the things that make you mad, piss you off, or drive you to abandon ship, as it were. So in that, I could totally empathize with that. As a writer, as someone who lays track, as someone who for a living pulls things out of the nebulous ether to give to other people, as one who decodes the world and tries to make it into a form by which people can understand, especially in the English speaking world, it is incredibly hard to get back to that place once you lose it. So in the 5 mile sprint, she discusses in the book her process to get through it is having all her tools at her ready, including whatever snack or beverage, and sifting through the day's events to get to the place that is at the end of the sprint. Now, those of you who may write on the fringes, write every now and then, what this means is when you get to the end of that sprint, there is the flow. Or as Shonda Rhimes spoke about in her TED Talk, therein lies the flow or the hum, where everything is on all cylinders. It's a hum. And I can totally get with that vernacular, because it is a hum when everything is rolling on all cylinders, where the world thinks that it should be collapsing because you shouldn't have so many things going at one time. But indeed, it's a hum. Everything is at a clip, everything's at a pace, and it's beautiful. But the one thing about this 5 mile sprint is, and Shonda mentions this in her book, that the more often you do it, the quicker it is to get through it, the quicker it is to get to the place that you need to get to create. So the one thing I want to admonish you all on today is, what is keeping you from your sprint? As I look at my notes, what thing is truly keeping you from your sprint? The one thing I want to touch on well, the four things I want to touch on rather, are one, why is the sprint important? The sprint is important as a writer, again, to have access to that creative energy, to have your mind be in a place by which you can easily access, easily tap into what it is you're trying to create. I cannot emphasize how amazing that is, how amazing it must be, and how as a writer you have to continually access that point. You have to continually get back to that point, especially if you are, again, as Shauna does, write as she writes for television, or even if you blog, or even if you write, or even if you're considering changing or adding on writing as a career or a hobby. You're going to have to sift through the sometimes wreckage of the day or the anxieties of the day to get to the place where you can create, where you can focus and you can work. That's why the sprint is important. Second thing, why this access time in space is important. I'm fond of saying that writing is equal parts bravery and passion. There is a level of writing or about writing that is ruthless in nature. It is one of the most demanding things. Again, if you give your entire self to it, it is one of the most demanding things you will ever come across. It is something by which, if done correctly, will inspire others and teach you more about yourself. So, having a process by which to sift through the day, by which to put things in their places to get to the place you need to get to is essential. That's also part of your writing process, which we'll talk about at a later 10-minute take. But definitely having access to that particular point, is freeing. You have to have that. I cannot express to you, I cannot physically give you a map as to where yours is. I know that my 5 mile sprint involves a quiet place, sometimes a playlist, surfing through Google or my personal social media, and then inspiration may just strike. But I have to be able to be in a position by which I can focus to get there. I have to sift through the day in order to get to where I need to get to. Okay. How does the writer access this quicker? The way you access the 5 mile sprint quicker, or the way by which you speed through this sprint, is by continued writing, by continued access, by being ruthless, again, as it were, about your space, about being able to say, I'm going to write for 20 minutes. I'm going to write for 3 hours, or I'm going to take this day and just write. You have to become ruthless about what it is that you want to do, because the creative process by nature is demanding. Just think of yourself, especially if you're a woman who's had a child. Think about writing in that capacity. You're holding this life, this new thing inside of you, and you have to be able to protect it as well as provide for it. So, as it relates to the 5 mile sprint, you have to be able to get through the wreckage, clutter, anxiety, noise of the day to get to where you need to get to in order for you to create. You have to do that. And again, everyone's process is different, but you have to be ruthless about how you want to do that, because every writer's journey, every writer's tools are different and the same. And my favorite, how to clear the space. Now, this goes back into the thing I just mentioned. You have to be, in order to access this point, you have to be able to be in a place where you can be focused. For me, I have a writing area in my home, and I normally write when my children are asleep, or I'm also fond of, because I'm an iPhone user, I normally either record a thought, or sometimes I'll free write on my phone in the notes app, and that helps me to get access to where I need to go to. That helps me to focus and to plan and to implement the things I need to implement. So I clear my space in order to sprint by, again, being ruthless about my time, being intentional about my time, and being able to say, this is what I have carved out. And in the carving out, I have to make a disciplined decision every day to write, to revisit, to go back to, I make the decision every day to sprint. I make the decision every day to go forward. And that, beloveds, is one of the things that no one will tell you about being a writer. It has to become a discipline on some level. It has to be something that you intentionally do, something that you do with passion, with fervor, and do it at an often enough clip that the sprint does not become a marathon. You have to be able to negotiate the obstacles that oppose you during the day, and sometimes even as you write, to be able to get to that place. Because at the end of the sprint is where you want to be at. Is this place by which accessing creativity, accessing creative energy, having the focus to go ahead and stream, just stream, to create, to implement the things that you have in your head. The one thing I tell people all the time, the one thing I tell my clients all the time is, my job as a mentor, my job as a writing coach is to help you get what is in your head through your hands to the world. And sometimes the best advice I can give is, how are you sprinting? Are you completing your sprint? What is stopping you from completing your sprint? So this is the first 10-minute take of 2020. I thank you all for your time, effort, love, and energy. Make sure you follow me on social media. Make sure that you are following JBHarris Writing Services on WordPress. All information will be below. And happy writing.